I bet we've all stayed up late at night as a kid to watch Adult Swim. I know I definitely did. It's something we really should not have done, but curiosity got to us. Or you had undiagnosed insomnia. Adult Swim had some interesting programs over the years, like Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Home Movies, and Mr. Pickles to name some. This show made me concerned about the creator's mental health. But a show I stumbled upon late one night was a stop-motion animated program consisting of tiny sketches with the MEGO brand of action figures. The show's intro alone was what caught my attention. It showed a defunct chicken being revived by a mad scientist, who would off-screen modify this chicken into a robot. The mad scientist would then strap the cyborg chicken into a wooden chair and force them to watch this big wall of CRT TVs, playing different sketches on each screen. It sounds like a fever dream, but trust me, it's not. And that's why you're gonna find out about Robot Chicken on this Halloween... Oh boy. It doesn't feel like Halloween in here. I could change that though. 1 second. Oh yeah. Much better. Ooh. Skeleton cardigan. I dig it. You're gonna find out about Robot Chicken on this Halloween episode of Pointless History. It all goes back to a toy magazine. Toy Fair was a magazine that featured collectible action figures. There was a featured comic strip in the magazine called Twisted Toy Fair Theater. That's a tongue twister. Originally called Twist Mego Theater because of its use of the Mego brand of action figures. It was a crude but amusing comic strip with pop culture references written by Doug Goldstein, Tom Root, and Matthew Senreich to name some. It was a pretty simple production. They would write the story first, then they would get the action figures. Then they would build little sets for the action figures, then take pictures, bring them into Photoshop, and edit, putting speech bubbles and special effects into it, giving us lowbrow content that we easily entertained people enjoy. This series would not stay in the comic strip format for long though. Seth Green, hopefully you know him by now. If not,
you uncultured swine!
He's an actor, writer, and producer. He's been in movies like Austin Powers, Idle Hands, and Without a Paddle, to name some, because these actors have way too many f***ing film credits. Anyway, the Toy Fair crew, being good friends with Green, heard that he helped get action figures made of the cast from Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show, and wanted to get permission to use them for the comic strip. This would not be the last collaboration between them. Green was working on a sketch for Late Night with Conan O'Brien because
the whole idea came from me not wanting to do another chat interview.
Green got in contact with Matthew Senreich to collaborate on the sketch. The result was a short stop-motion animated sketch featuring action figures of Conan O'Brien and Green meeting Britney Spears. This collab with Green and Senreich led to a 12-episode project they would work on for Sony's defunct website, Screen Blast. It was called Sweet J Presents, a stop-motion sketch comedy series. Essentially the prototype of Robot Chicken. Seth and Matt eventually got the bright idea to turn Sweet J Presents into a TV show, so they started pitching it to TV networks, as well as sketch comedy shows. They had pitched it to Cartoon Network, who rejected it technically at first. But one of the higher-ups at Cartoon Network decided to pass the pitch to their late-night programming block, Adult Swim, to see if they were interested. Coincidentally, Seth MacFarlane had suggested to Seth and Matt to pitch the show to Adult Swim around the same time. One thing led to another, and the next thing you know, Robot Chicken was accepted into the Adult Swim family of insane shows. Here's a quick fun fact. The name Robot Chicken came about because of a food item from a Chinese restaurant that the creators and writers would eat at. Other names considered for the show were Toys in the Attic, Junk in the Trunk, and The Deep End. The process is slightly similar to how Twisted Toy Fair Theater was made, except it's a much bigger production. It would go through the writing phase. Then the writing would go through corrections, approvals, and clearances from the creators and Cartoon Network's lawyers. This would usually take a long minute. The show would get storyboarded. Then the dialogue would be recorded by actors like Matthew Lillard, Macaulay Culkin, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and other special guest stars. Even the creators and writers of the show would record some dialogue. Animatics would be created, which is the storyboards edited with the dialogue and sound effects.
This is me, and this is Seth Green. We're married.
This is to help with the pacing of the sketches, as well as figuring out what jokes and parts of the sketch they want to keep and cut. Once everything is finalized with this portion, the animatics get sent to the building departments of the show, where sets, props, and action figures, or puppets, as they say, are created for the show. Really? Puppets? Come on now, guys, they're f***ing action figures. What are you talking about? Sometimes the crew would need a specific character or celebrity that doesn't have an action figure, so they would get the heads of the character made, then attach it to a headless MEGO action figure. Once that's finished, all the sets, props, and figures would get sent to the stages for stop-motion animating. I should also explain the stop-motion animation process if you're curious and don't understand it. With this animation process, you could bring inanimate objects, toys, and other nooks and crannies to life by moving the object very slightly while capturing a picture or frame of each movement. Then you would take the pictures and put them into a video editing software to play out the animation. You can even do this with clay, but that would be considered claymation. There's also stop-motion animating softwares that you can use, which makes life a hell of a lot easier. In general, it's an extremely long process. When filming or recording a video, normally the frame rate is between 24 to 30 frames per second, sometimes 60. When doing stop motion, moving the object and taking the picture 24 or 30 times will result in 1 second of animation. With Robot Chicken, the sketches range between 10 seconds to 2 minutes, meaning that these sketches require between 240 to over 2,800 pictures to be taken. Holy fuck. The animators at Robot Chicken would turn in between 10 to 40 seconds of animation each day. This was around 2005. It may be more now with the possibility of more animators and more stages built into the studio. They would also have a week to complete the animation. That gives me anxiety and I don't even work for the show. Now, as far as equipment for the animation process, they have their C-stands, their lights, and monitors. But when it comes to cameras, I think a lot of people would think that they had big, expensive cameras. No. They had small, relatively expensive, but affordable cameras at that moment in time. In the early days, they would use Sony R1s, as well as a little 8-megapixel Minolta camera. I don't know the model name. Instead of having to click the button on the camera to take the picture, the camera would be hooked up to a playback frame grabber device called the Lunchbox Sync. That way, they didn't have to touch the camera and mess up the shot. The animation would be saved and done from the lunchbox onto a flash card, then the footage would be transferred into a computer. Here's a quick fun fact. The mouth animation was done in stop motion. The crew had stick-on paper mouths to use for what Seth Green called
inexpensive lip assignment.
It was roughly inspired by the show South Park, and also a brainchild after learning how the lip assignment in The Nightmare Before Christmas was done, and also how expensive it was, by having multiple heads made for each character with different lip movements. Another way they would save time and money was to do special After Effects digitally. Here's a quick fun fact. If it wasn't clear that Robot Chicken was trying to be like South Park, then this will definitely clear the fog. They got Les Claypool of Primus to do the theme song to Robot Chicken, who also did the theme song to South Park. Then there's the last but best part of the whole production, editing. I'm gonna be really honest, it's kind of a love-hate relationship for me. Rough and final cuts are made, then are sent to Cartoon Network to get their opinions and advice. And eventually, a 15-minute episode of Robot Chicken is made and released. As I said before, it's a bigger production compared to Twisted Toy Fair Theater. The process has changed a little over the years with the advantage of new technology. For custom action figure heads, they get them 3D printed now. For the stop motion process, they stopped using the lunchbox sync and started using computers with stop motion software. The software is then controlled with a power glove. Not completely true, but Dylan Markey, one of the animators on Robot Chicken, modified a power glove to basically be a Bluetooth controller. They would use the D-pad on the glove to go through the frames of the sketch they were animating. I wanted to throw this info in here because, personally, I thought it was pretty cool, considering that I do collect retro video games as a hobby. Although, I gotta get a power glove soon. The cameras have changed as well, from point and shoot to DSLR cameras. The only info I could find as of 2016 was that they were and possibly are still using Canon 70D cameras with Nikon lenses. The only things that really haven't changed is the creative process and the stick-on mouths. Robot Chicken has been on the air since 2005 with 11 seasons, over 200 episodes, and 11 specials made. When I was writing the first draft of this episode, it was confirmed that Robot Chicken was returning for a 12th season this year, but there hasn't been any update about it, which caused some rumors that it's been cancelled. Again, it's just rumors, there's no real confirmation about it. Although they always teased about being cancelled in every last episode of each season.
So when are we getting renewed for another season?
I don't know. You're canceled.
Maybe they jinxed themselves. I hope not. My best guess, the crew were on hiatus because of the writer's strike earlier this year, but take that with a grain of salt. Robot Chicken was one of the longest running Adult Swim programs due to the cancellation of the Venture Brothers, but was then surpassed when Aqua Teen Hunger Force was brought back from the dead. I had to throw a Halloween reference in there somehow. I do want to warn you that if you decide to watch the earlier seasons of Robot Chicken, those episodes are offensive and some of the jokes have aged like milk in a desert. This show is not only nostalgic to me, but was a big influence on the content I create. Now you may be thinking, Devin, you don't have any stop motion content on this YouTube channel. That's true, but when I first started making any content, and I'm talking way before I had a YouTube channel, I was making choppy stop motion animated videos on an old cell phone. I did release a little stop motion video on an older YouTube channel I ran over a decade ago. It wasn't great, but I tried. On this show, I use sketches sometimes and video distortion transitions similar to Robot Chicken. Maybe I should incorporate stop motion animation into this show. All right, one more shot. Stop motion show is done. Just figure that way. You know what? F this shit, man. I'm going into video production. Thanks for watching this episode of Pointless History. Sorry that I couldn't do a bigger Halloween special this year. It's been a really busy year with a lot of priorities and things going on. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have or have had, depending when this video comes out, a spooky Halloween season. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Episcope Media for more videos like this and other random stuff that I decide to put on this channel. And most importantly, thank you very much for watching, and take care. I am exhausted. It is 6:14 in the morning. I have been up all night. Man.
Stupid monkey.